Sundance protocol and violation. This is a serious thing. This ceremony is considered the Holy of Holies in Lakota spirituality. The Sundance ceremony has to do with our outer identity. That's cultural identity. Your identity is consisted of two parts. One is your cultural identity, and one is your human identity. And the one that's more important is your human identity, because your grandmother Earth does not see you as your skin color. She sees you as a grandchild. And to answer her, we must communicate as humans and not as our culture. Okay? Culture is beautiful, but that's not the emphasis. The emphasis is on you yourself as a Ikche Wichasha, a common man, or Ikche Wiwanyang, a human woman. Yeah? This is way more important. And how you live your life is also more important than the ceremony is, than any ceremony, because your life is a ceremony. You are the sacred item. You are a blessing. You were created that way through a very sacred process. And when anything is created through a sacred process, the product is also sacred, which means you are sacred. So how you live your life is way more important than what ceremony you do or how many ceremonies you do. Okay? I need to add this first, that's more important. It's how you live your life. These ceremonies have the tendency today for people to separate themselves from others. And they say, we do this ceremony and that makes us more holy, and this makes us better, and this makes us smarter, and this makes us more spiritual. See, they're heading only in one direction. That's linear thinking. And that kind of thinking leads to people thinking that they're better than others. And if you don't agree, then you're their enemy. This is not the way. Yeah, this is not the way of our grandmother Earth. So I have to add these things in there because that's really the tendency today. That people, they want to believe that just because they do this certain ceremony and they do it a whole bunch of times, that they think it makes them better. Somebody will say, get into a discussion with some of these guys, and some guy might say, I've been doing this for 16 years. Another guy's going to say, that's nothing, I've been doing it for 29. So everybody says, whoa! You see what I mean? This is not humble. This is not humility. And that violates Lakota virtue. So this is why I want to interject these things, that I'm going to discuss these things because it is part of our Lakota culture, but people today are dualistic thinkers. And so their tendency is to think that if they do this ceremony, it makes them better than others. And that's not the purpose. But I do want to say the difference between what is linear and what is not. I just explained to you what linear is. Linear is when you only go one direction, and you think that the further you go, the better you get. Yeah? And people, in spirituality, people will, they make up all these courses and they'll say, I got a certificate in Reiki and a certificate in Shaky and a certificate in Takey and do you think the earth gives a shit about your certificates? No, she doesn't. That doesn't matter. That's man's way of patting himself on the back and saying, look how good I am. And you can be good like me too if you take this course. That's all human selfishness that creates that. Because people who take these kind of courses, they do this because they don't feel good about themselves. They need outside validation, and they need these certificates so people can say, "Wow, gee, you're good. You have all those certificates. Geez, you're amazing." See, they want to hear that because they have low self-esteem. And low self-esteem is a result of duality. Yeah? That's linear thinking. Nonlinear thinking is when you go any direction. You can learn in any direction. Yeah? And like, for example, you can look into your past. If you're at peace with your past, you can look at that part. Especially if it's something that happened a long time ago, you can look at it because you've changed, you've developed, you can see more. Yeah? So you can look into the past and you'll see new things because you're different. You're more developed. It doesn't mean you're better, it just means you're more developed. Yeah? So you learn something new by going into the past. And also when you come to peace with your difficulties from your past, you're also learning new things too. So that's going backwards. Yeah? Jumping way in the future, you can visualize your future, how you would like it to be, and visualize that you're already there and you enjoy it in your mind. That's why it's called visualization. Now you're visualizing it and you're enjoying it as if it's happening right now. And while you're doing that, you're getting medicine. Yeah, you're feeling good. You do that several minutes a day. And then you come back to the present moment because this is the most important moment. And then as soon as you come back from your visualization imprints or embeds something into your brain, like a pattern into your brain, and that's going to cause your brain to receive inspiration, ideas that are in line with this, what you want to accomplish in the future. So you're learning from the future. You're getting medicine from the future. As long as it's all healthy. Yeah? And as long as you remember that when you do this, this doesn't make you better. It just means you're learning. Yeah? Never think you're better just because you know a lot of things. It's just, you just know things, that's all, but it doesn't make you better. Yeah? This makes you more responsible. So, this is nonlinear. And our stories are like that. They're nonlinear. So a lot of people, including Indians, because today's Indians are mostly linear thinkers because of what I told you, they have difficulty following Lakota stories because they don't really go one after the other. They kind of go sideways sometimes. And that's when people have a hard time understanding. Yeah. They'll say, "Hey, wait a minute. I thought this guy died in the other story. How come he's still alive in this one?" You see what I mean? That's linear thinking. And to understand it, you have to be a non-linear thinker. Then it makes sense. Yeah? So non-linear is you're a person of peace. You look for at least 3 perspectives to everything. And you learn from the past and from the future and from the present moment as well. They're all connected. Yeah? That's non-linear. Okay? So I need to explain that. So, people who do these ceremonies today, they think that the more they do, that the better they become. And that's linear thinking. And that's a duality. That's not the ancestral way. It violates humility, yeah, and respect, compassion, generosity. It violates a lot of things. So this is important to know. The Sundance is part of the male cycle. Women have 7 stages of development. Men have 4. This is why the numbers 7 and 4 are sacred for us. Okay? Now, when that happened, this created an imbalance between men and women. But in time, men were given 3 ceremonies to come back into balance with women. And Sundance is one of those ceremonies. The Sweat Lodge is another one. And Crying for a Vision, Hamblecha, is the third one. These are for men only because they need it. Women don't. I should say women in their menstruating years don't need these things. And if they do them, then they throw it off balance again, which means they're going against their very nature. And that's akin to ripping their hearts out and throwing it on the ground, which is when they're killing their own nation. So these are really ancient things here that I'm saying. So again, I'm going to say it one more time. These ceremonies, when I say they're for men, it's not because men are better. It's the opposite. We need them to come back into balance with womankind. Okay? So there's things that happen inside a woman that do not happen inside of a man. And this also plays a role. Why men have to do these ceremonies. For women, it's internal. For men, it's external. This is how we can complement each other. Okay? So neither gender is more important than the other as long as these ceremonies are in place. And that the rules are followed concerning them. Alright? So that's important to know. Okay. So, talking about some of the goofy things that happen concerning that, I just found out today that, and I won't say which reservation it is, but it's a reservation that has a casino. And they're doing a Sundance in the area, not at the casino, but there's a Sundance happening someplace on that reservation. And some of the dancers, that when the day is over, when the day of dancing is over, they head over to the casino. This casino has a hotel. So they go sleep in the hotel room for the night with their family. And then next morning they get up, take a shower, and then go back to the Sundance area and continue to Sundance. This is really a violation. Because I'll tell you why. For the Sundancer, the Sundance ceremony, it's actually 12 days long. Okay? The first 4 days are days of preparation, and this is where they separate from their families. And then they just stay with other Sundancers. And there's a certain location at the Sundance grounds that they have to stay. Okay? Because they're slowly getting into the Sundance frame of mind. They're leaving the normal world, so to speak. On the 4th day of preparation is Tree Day. That's when they cut the tree down. There's a sacred way of doing that. There's a sacred way of delivering it to the Sundance circle. And there's all kinds of things that happen before it's put up for the ceremony. I'm not going to say what those are because I know there's New Agers listening and they're writing all this down, so I'm going to give out just the important highlights here. So that's what happens in the first 4 days. The second 4 days is the day of the dancing, the days of the dancing. Yeah. On the 3rd and 4th dancing days, that's when the dancers pierce. Okay? And then after those 4 days are done, then the dancers again they still stay separate from their family. But then the last 4 days is a conclusion time. And that's when they slowly come back to the normal world. And then when that on the last conclusion day, they come back to their families. So you see, the Sundancers are always supposed to be at the Sundance arena. And they sleep on the ground because of Grandmother Earth. Yeah. There's a special reason for this, but I'm not going to go into it. It's really a sacred reason. But they especially are supposed to have direct contact with the ground. So they're not supposed to be in a hotel room, laying on a bed with air conditioning blowing. They're not supposed to be doing that. That kills the ceremony. You see what I mean? It's really violates that. And I heard that, I was like, geez, it's getting ridiculous now. Yeah, it's really getting ridiculous. So, my goodness, some dancers going to the hotel room after each night, yeah? That's not even, I mean, geez, it just doesn't make sense. It's just stupid. How can you stay in the Sundance frame of mind when at the end of the day you're going to a hotel room? Yeah? And even then, at the end of the day, they go back to their families each day. And that they're not supposed to even do that. Because to make this ceremony effective, they have to not be a part of this normal Earth time. Yeah? They have to be part of a sacred Earth time, but not the normal one. And going back to your families breaks that during the days of the ceremony. And so to go to a hotel is even more ridiculous. So that's really, really not right. And there are no exceptions. And some people might say, "What? But then that guy has a medical situation." Well, if he has a medical situation, he's not supposed to be doing the ceremony. That's the other thing. Yeah? Back in the 1980s, they issued this alert to all Sundances, is that they wanted, for those that are piercing, that they have to now bring their own piercing tools. Yeah, and that they have to be sterilized because HIV had just entered the world. And this is why they were saying that. That was in the mid-1980s when that was going around. Yes, because before the medicine man that's doing the ceremony, usually he brought his own knife and he'd be piercing everybody who was supposed to be getting pierced. Yeah, but they changed that rule because of this HIV. And so they said, okay, now the dancers have to bring their own. So when they are going to lay down to get pierced, they bring their own knife and they give it to the medicine man, then he does the piercing. But it's the dancer had to bring their own knives after this HIV thing started, which makes sense. Yeah? Okay, well, back several years ago, I know a German girl who's married to a Navajo, and they live in California. And this Navajo guy comes to one of the Sundances on Pine Ridge every year. And he didn't want to bring his wife. Yeah, he always wants to come alone. He said, "This is an Indian thing," he said. Gee, not that. Why did he marry a white woman if that's the way he feels? You know what I mean? And so she just, yeah, well, whatever, If you don't want me there, then okay, she said. So here, after the ceremony was over, and he drove, yeah, it was about 3 day drive. And he called saying he was ready. He was going to be heading out. So they were expecting him in a couple days. A couple days later, he never showed up. So they were getting concerned. And finally, he showed up several days late. And he was barely driving. And they thought, geez, he drunk? Because he was really looked out of it. So he pulled in, didn't even make it into their driveway. He was still on the street then. He just was laying there, so they all ran out saying, what's going on? And he said, yeah, well, ever since the ceremony's over, I said, I've been sick. So I had to pull over by the side of the road and sleep for a while, he said, until I feel better, then I drive again. He did that all the way back from South Dakota to California, stopping off and on like that to doze off by the side of the road. His wife said, geez, you really look in bad shape. No, I'm okay, he said. And he said, yeah, my chest kind of hurts, but that's from the piercing. And she said, let me take a look at it. And he said, no, that's an Indian thing. And she said, the hell with you, let me take a look at it, she said. He was too weak to fight her off, so she threw off his hands and lifted up his shirt. And here, she really freaked out. She couldn't believe what she saw. And she said, we need to get you to the hospital now. No, 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 he said. That's white man's medicine, he said. I just need Indian medicine. I'll be all right, he said. And she said, you're going to die if we don't get you to the hospital. And he was like, no, you're wrong. You white people don't know things. You have to be Indian to understand, he said. And he was so weak, she didn't give a shit. And she just basically dragged him to the hospital. He couldn't even fight her because he was so weak. So she pushed him to the passenger side, buckled him up, and got in the car and drove to the emergency right away. The nurses saw him and they were like, oh my goodness, let's get him in right now. His chest and his side, they were really freaked out. They were like, the nurses were saying, what has happened? What happened to him? Did he get beat up? And she said, no, he did a Native American ceremony where they pierced themselves in the chest. Where they took him in emergency right away, intensive care, ICU. They put him in ICU immediately. They had to operate and do transfusion and things like that, and then to put him on dialysis because it turned out he's diabetic. And the other thing is that the doctor said the only way this could have happened this severe, he said, is that whatever was used to pierce his skin was dirty. So this is very serious. Its chances are really high that one more day he would have been dead. If you brought him in at the last possible moment of saving him. He told the wife. And she started to cry. What's going on with this guy? So he almost died. So then she called up the people in South Dakota and was trying to get the details on what happened. And here it turned out that it was a Crow Indian guy was doing the piercing. And he was using the same knife on everybody. So what he would do is he would just wipe the blade. Yeah, after he pierced the dancer, he would just wipe the blade with a handkerchief and then pierce the next guy. So he was spreading disease doing this. Yeah. When she told this to me, it infuriated me because I was like, what is a Crow Indian doing being a part of a Lakota ceremony? Because you remember what I said at the beginning? This is a tribal thing. This has to do with the tribal identity, cultural identity. Crow Indians are a totally different culture. They have different ceremonies. See, people in Europe, they think that we're all the same, but we're not. Our languages sound vastly different. I was really surprised that this guy is a young guy. The Crow Indian guy was a young guy. Was really inexperienced. Why did the Sundance leader give him all that responsibility when the guy was young and inexperienced and he was not even Lakota? Why was he giving him that responsibility? And remember what I said, in the mid-1980s, this proclamation went out to all Sundances. They even announced it at powwows that anybody who's going to Sundance from here on out, they have to carry their own piercing utensils. It turned out that this Crow Indian, when he was piercing dancers, some of the dancers had their own knives, but the Crow Indian said, "Nope, I'm just using mine," he said. So even though a lot of the dancers had their own knives, this Crow guy was not using it. He was only using his own on everybody. I asked the wife, I said, "Did you know he's diabetic?" And she said, "Yeah, I always knew that. He told me. He takes diabetes medicine. He gives him a shot every day." And I was like, my goodness. Why must people corrupt this ceremony? And I said to her, on the real good ceremony, you have to tell whoever is running that ceremony, you have to inform them that you're in good health and that if you're diabetic, you're not supposed to be doing the ceremony. If you're diabetic, you're not supposed to be doing any ceremonies. That is a rule in Lakota ceremonial life. If you have diabetes or high blood pressure or any kind of health problem, you're not supposed to be in the ceremony. I was really upset. Yeah, at her husband too, because he knows he's not supposed to be in that ceremony because he's diabetic. It doesn't matter if you have a diabetes that's manageable and you're taking medication and everything is on the up and up. It doesn't matter. If you have it, even a tiny little bit, you're not supposed to be doing that ceremony. If you've done 2 years and then after that you discover you have diabetes, your Sundance career is over. But that's not a problem. That is not a bad thing. Because the more important identity is your human identity. When you say that you're Ikjewichasha, that's a human man. Or for women, Ikjewiang, that's a human woman. That's what's important. The other thing I was saying is, how come a Navajo is doing a Lakota ceremony? Because Navajos are a complete different animal. I mean, these guys, they're very, very exclusive. That their ceremonies are for them only. No outsiders are allowed. Which is correct. Because this is a tribal thing. There's a fake medicine man by the name of Joe Chasing Horse. He's from Rosebud Sioux tribe. He's Sicangu, Lakota. His son is Nathan. That's the guy that played Smiles a lot in that movie, Dances with Wolves. These two guys are fake medicine men today. They go around where there's not much Lakota people, so they hit the East Coast and the West Coast. They say they're raising money to do things for the kids on Pine Ridge, and they keep saying, yeah, we live at Wambly. You know, they're always trying to give the impression that they're Oglala, as if this means something. For some reason, people think Pine Ridge is the only Lakota reservation. I don't know what gives them that idea. The greatest Lakota contemporary chief ever was Sitting Bull, and he's Hunkpapha. Yeah? The white buffalo calf pipe, our most sacred symbol, is among the Itazipco Lakota. So I don't know why people, for some reason, think Pine Ridge is the ultimate place. I mean, even Pine Ridge likes to think that, which is showing you they're not humble. So anyway, these two guys would raise money like that, and then they would keep all the money to themselves. And when Nathan became a young man, He wanted to go on a hamblecha, stand on a hill. One night he came down and didn't tell anybody. He snuck down. And then he went to his sisters and said, "Can you dye a strip of my hair white in the back?" So she did, yeah. She bleached it. So then he snuck back up on the hill again, and he came back. And the next day that he was supposed to come down, and then he told the medicine men that the spirits made his hair white. The way we found out about this was that the lady talked when she realized that she didn't even know that he was up on the hill. She thought he just came to visit, and so she had no idea he was supposed to be up on a hill doing his ceremony. She didn't know that. She just thought he came for a visit and wanted him to dye his hair. Yeah. And she thought that was peculiar. Why just a part of it? Yeah. And why white? What does a young guy want white hair for? She thought. And he went back up there. Then the next day, when the medicine man went to go get him, he saw this white strip of hair. So this Nathan was trying to pretend that, yeah, the spirits did this to me. That means I'm a medicine man, they say. So then he set up in California, and he has a little cult going on over there. This is a really sleazy guy. And his dad, Joe, he tried to have a Sundance on the Navajo reservation. This was back in the 1990s, early 1990s, 1992, 93, somewhere around there. He tried to do a Sundance down there for New Agers. And so he charged a lot of money for that, yeah. So the Navajo people went over there and they told him to leave, and he wouldn't leave. So then they got the Navajo Highway Department. They brought their trucks, their construction, their highway trucks, and they destroyed Joe's Sundance circle. They knocked it down with their trucks, and they what do you call it? They leveled the whole area and chased him out of there. So in 1990, what year was it? I think it was 1993 or 1994. A Navajo delegation came up. There used to be this meeting called the Lakota, Dakota, Nakota Summit. These are the three dialects of our language. Our nation is called Oceti-Sakowin, but the rest of the world calls us the Sioux people, the Sioux nation. But we call ourselves Oceti-Sakowin, 7 groups, 7 council fires. 4 of those groups speak the Dakota dialect, 2 groups speak the Nakota dialect, and 1 group speaks the Lakota dialect. Okay? And the difference is, you can hear. Let me show you how you can hear the difference. There's an expression that means really good. In Lakota, you say lila washte. In Dakota, you'd say dida washte. In Nakota, you say dina washte. You see? You hear the difference? Lakota people say lila. Dakota people say dida. Nakota people say dina. You hear that? That's how you can tell. All right. So they used to have these summit meetings where people from those tribes would all meet at a different location every summer. It's an all-week-long thing. And in the evening time, they have what do you call it? Just traditional dancing and like that. And it's really nice. It's really nice to have. And one summer, it was on Cheyenne River, where I'm from, the Cheyenne River Sioux Reservation. And it's really cool, yeah, because you see these busloads, people pulling in from Canada, our Nakota and Lakota relatives in Canada. Because a long time ago, some of the Sitting Bulls people went up there, yeah, and they stayed up there, so they're Lakota. And there's Lakota people up there already. Our nation was huge before there was an America and Canada. Yeah, our nation was into both countries really. Anyway, it's really cool to see the relatives from up that way. Yeah, the Canadian relatives come down and they all have a good time, and we can all understand each other. Yeah, even though we're speaking different dialects, we can all understand each other. It's real nice to be in a room where you hear all three dialects. I just love that. So I was just delighted when this happened. Yeah, I went every day to listen to what they talk about. They talk about ceremonies, violation of ceremonies, and stuff like that. And here, one time they had a delegation of Navajos that came in, and they said, "We come in peace," and they say we want to give our side of the story concerning this Joe chasing horse. They said that we believe. He said we have all respect for you Lakota people, but we believe that Lakota ceremonies belong in Lakota country, just like Diné. They call themselves Diné. That Diné ceremonies, Navajo ceremonies, only belong in Navajo country. And so they said we felt that what Joe Chasing Horse did was actually more disrespectful to the Lakota people than it was to Navajo people. So we just want to say our side of the story. And so the Lakota people thanked them, and they said, "You're absolutely right. Yeah, the teachings say that the ceremonies belong in the homeland." See, this was Lakota, Dakota, and Nakota people that were saying this, that these ceremonies only belong where the Lakota, Dakota, and Nakota people are. It's a very, very strict rule. So this Joe Chasing Horse was trying to make the Navajos look bad. Yeah, we're just trying to do something. They asked me to go down there, and then they chased me off. And he told a lie. That what he said was not true. They never asked him to go down there. This is an example of people who are not really medicine men, but they're trying to pretend that they're medicine men. Because if he was the real one, he would have known it doesn't belong in Navajo country, especially when the Navajo Nation is very traditional. They have their own language and ceremony still intact. Some of them still live traditionally in traditional homes in the country. So it is a gross disrespect to them. But the Navajos were correct. It was even a bigger disrespect to us, his own people, because he was exploiting it. A lot of non-Indians were going to be in his Sundance. They paid him a lot of money. And they were doing it in English. Remember what I said? The language has to be there because it has certain energies that need to be present while that ceremony is going on. Because this is a cultural thing. This leads me to the next one. I had a friend from New York City. Her name was Donna. A very, very nice lady. Italian lady. Donna, what first struck me about Donna when I met her is gee, you're tall. I said, she was really tall. She was a very beautiful lady. And very smart. Yeah. Emotionally healthy woman. Physically healthy. She was really into nature and eating healthy and stuff like that. She's a real good lady. And she could sing. Some of my songs have her singing. She has a really powerful voice. And is the best singer I ever worked with, and I'm very proud of the music that we did together. Donna was always into Native American culture. She has a love for it. And one time there was a alleged medicine man that was coming over to New York City to speak at the Indian Museum. I forgot what it's called. I don't know what the name of the Indian Museum in New York City is called, but that's where he went to speak. He was going to give a speech. Whenever there's speeches and talks and discussions, she always goes to listen because she wants to learn. So she went to go check this out, see what was going on. This guy said he's from the Pine Ridge Sioux tribe and that he's a medicine man. So she went to go see what he had to say. So she took notes down. One of the things he said was that Lakota people are matriarchal, which is false. We're not matriarchal, and we're not patriarchal either. We're something different. Then he was trying to teach. He was saying something that was totally off the wall. It violated Lakota Star knowledge. From based on what he said, it told me he didn't know Lakota Star knowledge. Well, he was speaking from a Christian perspective, from a Catholic perspective. But she didn't know these things. Yeah, she's just now learning. She said she got kind of queasy in the stomach. She didn't think anything of it because she's a physically strong woman. And then she noticed that this guy kept looking at her all the time. She was like, And then after his talk was over, he was hobnobbing with people that were there. And she wanted to ask him a few things and just, shake his hand and tell him she enjoyed the discussion, that she was going to go home. So she was waiting, and then he went up to her and he invited her to the Sundance. And she said, "Yeah, I'm going to be in South Dakota during that time, so yeah, maybe I'll check it out." "Yeah, I invite you," he said. And he grabbed her by the shoulder, and so she thought, that's odd. The way he grabbed her, she felt was kind of odd. It seemed out of place, yeah. So then she just walked away. She told me about it, so I said, "So are you going to go?" And then she said, "I don't know. Maybe on my way to see you," she said. So I said, "Okay." So she gave me a call saying, she was flying to Colorado because she has friends there. Then she rented a car. She was going to rent a car from Colorado and travel towards Pine Ridge and then towards Cheyenne River where I'm at. And then she was going to end up in Rapid City, turn the car in there and fly back to New York City from Rapid City. That was her plan. So then she never told me his name at the time though, yeah? So then she gave me a call. She was in Colorado. And she said, "Yeah, I'm heading out now. This isn't the days before cell phones, okay?" So she said, "Yeah, I just landed in Colorado. I got my car and got my bags in the trunk, and I'm heading up towards Pine Ridge." So I said, "All right." And I said, "Oh, wait, Donna." I said, "By the way, what's this guy's name?" And she said, "His name is David Swallow." And I was like, "Oh, fuck." I said, we need to talk," I said. "Are you going to stop in a hotel anywhere before you get to Pine Ridge? I really have to talk to you." And she said, yeah, I can do that," she said. Because we knew each other for several years by this time, and we trust each other. Yeah, we're best friends. So then she said she was going to drive into Rapid City and get a hotel room, and then she'll call me from the hotel room. So I said, "Okay." So then about, end of the day, she called me up, and then she said, "Yeah, what's going on?" And I said, "Okay. Just a year ago," I said, now I'm talking several years ago now, okay, but I told her during that time, I said, just a year ago, I said, this guy went to California and he started sweet talking a rich lady. What he did is he went to some kind of gathering in California and he made a speech there and enchanted some people. And he was saying that he's raising money for something in Pine Ridge, and this lady approached him and she said she wanted to help. "How can I help?" she said. "What do you need?" she said. And so he said that he needed $50,000, that he was going to rent a semi-truck. He said he already had companies donate a bunch of clothes, and he just needs to transport them to Pine Ridge. So he needs $50,000 to pay for a truck driver, as well as renting a semi truck to take it all there, and then to have the truck come back. And he has to pay this truck driver to do that. So this lady said, okay. So she got the funds in no time. Turned out she was kind of a millionaire. So she gave him all this money. And then she said, I want to see pictures. And she said, I want to hear a report on everything. She said, I need this for my accounts. So David said, no problem. So then he got the money and took off, and nothing happened. And she didn't hear anything from him. In those days, there was a newspaper called Lakota Times. And today it's called a different name. It's exchanged owners several times, so it has a different name now. But back then it was called Lakota Times. And she wrote a letter to the editor, and she stated what happened. And she said his name and the phone number that he gave her. He never answered the phone. And she called to check the number, and it said the number didn't exist. And she said she didn't know what to do. She tried contacting local authorities, but they said, well, since it's on an Indian reservation, you should contact tribal authorities. And she didn't know what to do, so she wrote to this newspaper. And so the editor was a really good guy of that newspaper, so he called around checking. And the truck company didn't even exist, for one thing. On the reservation, you can just ask certain people, so where's so-and-so? Yeah? And through the gossip express on the reservation, he located this David Swallow. It turned out that he never did hire a truck driver. There was no truck. There was no donated clothes. Now, he just pocketed $50,000 from this woman. And so she wanted to get it back. And so she filed charges on him. And then he disappeared. Yeah, he just went off the map. He left Pine Ridge, allegedly, and they couldn't locate him. And once this news got out, it turned out that other ladies were starting to come up with the same thing, the same story. It turned out that he walked away with a lot of money from these women. He told them things, and they'd sign big checks over to him. He cashed them, and they lost their money. They never got it back. So I told Donna this, and I said, you better be careful. And I said, the other thing is that you need to know the thing about medicine men is that medicine men are never supposed to leave the reservation. Medicine men, they have to be there for their people. A real medicine man is busy every day of his life, and that he has no time to travel, to give speeches, and he's not supposed to accept money. That's the way of the medicine man. And they see themselves as servants. They never see themselves as leaders. And Donna said, yeah, that makes sense, she said, because she said, I seen him. There was a Sundance here in Colorado, she said, and David Swallow was doing this Sundance, and he had a bunch of New Agers there, and they got him an RV with air conditioning and a satellite dish. So in between sessions, he would go to his RV to cool off while the Sundancers are melting out in the sun. And I said, that is a gross violation. A medicine man stays with the dancers at all times. Then I explained to her what I just explained earlier about this 12-day thing, and that the medicine man is going to be with the dancers the whole 12 days. He's not going to separate. If he's married, he's not even going to go talk to his wife. He's going to stay away from his own family, just like the dancers are. So to go to an RV, Donna didn't know the protocols, and she thought it was weird. That why is it that he's going to in the RV with the satellite dish, even at a Sundance. On the Sundance premises is in the RV with the satellite dish and air conditioning. See, do you see what I mean when I say the Sundances are becoming circuses? So she said, yeah, this is a good thing you told me this. To tell you the truth, she said, I thought I would go see the ceremony before coming to Rapid City, she said. And the closer I got to the location, I got sick, she said. I had to pull over and I literally threw up, she said. Then I decided, there's something wrong, she said. Because see, Donna is really intuitive. And she figured it has to do with this guy. So she got in her car, turned back around, and headed for Rapid City. So as soon as she went the other direction, she said she felt better. So she got to the hotel room, took a bath, and then she called me. So she said, yeah, I figured there's something kind of goofy about this guy. And she said the way he grabbed me at the museum, it really made me feel weird. She said it was like it was against my will. And for a second there, he held me against my will. I didn't like that, she said. And I should have paid attention to the red flag at that time. And that's probably why I got queasy, she said. So then she backed off after that. So when she came, the next day she came to where I live, and I had all the documents to show her concerning this guy that my research has produced that shows that he was ripping off a lot of non-native women who are rich. And I said, see, Donna, he was trying to get you too. This guy is really tricky because he can say really, really nice things, but he has an agenda behind it. What he says is his candy storefront, but what's behind it is something really unhealthy. This is not a medicine man, I said. This is a guy who's disguising himself as one. So I said, whenever you are encountered by something like this, I said, trust your feeling, yeah? I said, you're very intuitive, so trust it. And if you're unsure, you can call me, and I'll talk with you. Because we were like brother and sister at that time. She was really appalled by the number of women this guy ripped off. So he didn't even use them for sex, yeah? He used them for money. He wanted money. So, what did I just say about medicine men and money? Air-conditioned RV with a satellite dish. My goodness. The guy he had his New Agers really supporting him luxuriously. So for several years, he moved his Sundance from Colorado to Pine Ridge. A relative had land on Pine Ridge. He would use that. So all these New Agers would come. Pine Ridge is probably one of the worst places to go for Sundance because there's so many people like this that are really fake. Rosebud is like that too. And Standing Rock and Cheyenne River are starting to become this way now as well. So people are seeing this ceremony as a status symbol. They're seeing it as a way to hook up with women by trying to impress them. And it's the wrong energy is in these ceremonies now. And when you have a medicine man who's going to be living in an RV, air-conditioned RV with a satellite dish on top, that, my friends, is out of line. So, there's a lot of evidence for this. It is there. And Donna showed me her notes, and she brought her notepad with her when she came to visit me. And so I saw the things that he said, and some of it was true, but a lot of it was false. And it showed to me that he really doesn't know Lakota Star knowledge. Because if he did, he wouldn't be doing what he is doing. So, Gross violations, yeah? Inviting people to the Sundance. You know, there's a traditional way to do that. It involves a branch from a certain tree. And you have to decorate this branch in a certain way. And when you go to the person that you want to invite, you give this tree branch to that person, and there's a certain phrase that you say. So remember, this branch has to be decorated a certain way. This is the way you invite somebody to a Sundance. You don't do it in a museum. That's really, really improper.